Hey Zoomers, welcome back to World Zoom. So happy you could join me again today. Spent this morning at the dentist when I fell down the stairs at Cebu Immigration and Detention and knocked my front tooth out. So I've got a new tooth. So that's both not painful in the physical sense, but certainly painful in the economic sense, if you know what I mean. If you guys have been for medical treatment or dental treatment anywhere in the U.S. in the last few years, you know what a short visit, will actually cost. So anyway, happy to not be a snaggletooth anymore. Glad I could get that fixed. And hopefully that'll last an extended period of time. I was thinking that combined with some of the comments that I got in the last couple days, a lot of requests about the Philippines. And although I have returned back to the U.S., I still really enjoy talking about the Philippines. And I get this one a lot, like, Paul, how should I select where to live, or where should I start? Where should I go? What's the initial step that I should take when I come from Europe or from Australia or from the U.S.? And so many of those things are so dependent on you, just like what should my budget be? Those are always nearly impossible to answer when, someone from, let's say, Missouri would have a completely different budget than California, Oregon, or the state of Washington, right? Just because of the costs, never mind all the worldwide costs. So when you talk about budgets, I find it easier just to talk about individual people, themselves and their spouse, or are they by themselves? Do they have children? Are they urban? Are they rural? That's the best way, I think, to sort of gauge what you need or will have to spend to be able to live out your retirement years in the Philippines. And those numbers are all over. But a lot of it is your wants, right? What do you actually want in your retirement? I have friends that wouldn't be caught dead in the city. They don't want any part of Indianapolis, no part of Chicago. They really dislike it when they have to go to the city. But I have other friends that are completely urban dwellers. They hardly ever even leave the city. The thought of them being in a rural place or out in the country or cornfields and soybeans is just so alien to them. They want the noise and the repetition and the sound of ambulances and police and people talking and music. They can't sleep in the deathly quiet. So which one of those are you? Or are you a mix in between? And so I wrote down a couple of the wants that I hear a lot from my friends and from you. It's like, do you want water around you? That's the great thing about the Philippines. Every place is an island. And so you're hard pressed to get too far away from the ocean, which is great for me, something I really like. I probably talk about it too much because I have expat friends that live in the Philippines and never, ever go to the beach. And they don't play golf either, which is another one of my wants that I would have that you may not have. So water and golf. I talked about the country. A lot of the YouTubers are out in the sticks, right? Not a ton of them are in an urban setting. No one I really watch, at least at this point, is in Manila. Some in Cebu, but I mean, you question if that really is a city. I mean, it's got a decent number of people, but it doesn't feel like a city, certainly not a U.S. city. Not many places outside of Manila do in the Philippines. So what is your want there? We talked about my friends that love the city, my friends that love the country. What is your comfort level? Understand, I think either place, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, but either one's going to be so loud. It's not like in the U.S. where you go to the country and get the quiet here. The country in the Philippines is loud, and perhaps even louder than when you're in the city, because you add in the karaoke and the roosters and your neighbors screaming all the time and the barking dogs. Unless you've got really tight windows that seal well, which most Philippine rentals won't have, or you've got a loud air con or a loud fan or wear earplugs, it takes some getting used to. So Do you want water? Do you want golf? Do you want the country? Do you want the city? Are you looking for cool areas? A lot of the folks that are coming from a non-temperate climate, especially from Canada and the U.S. and Scandinavia, for example, they can't take that heat and humidity. I mean, April, just this last April in the Philippines was tough, every day over 90, high humidity, no air con. And that's tough living when you're used to something, in the 60s and 70s. There are places that you can go in the Philippines that you can stay cooler. It's almost seasonal, right? You consider the Philippines basically has two seasons. One's the hot season and one's the hot season that has rain, right? Whereas like here in Indy, we've got the four full season, winter, spring, summer, and fall. Some people love that and live for that and really enjoy the seasons. For me, I can stay in the heat all year round. I prefer that. That's why like Hawaii, California, Nevada, Texas, Florida are my areas that I like the most here. But I'd say there are more people in the U.S. That like the seasonal type of things. And we see that with the rest of the states that have the multiple seasons. I guess they don't technically have the seasons, especially the winter time, but there are some places that you can go up in the mountains and live in those cities and feel, or at least have the cooler temperatures if that's what you're after. So another question is, do you want expats to be around you, or would you rather not be around any expats? What I've found is that, at least initially, when someone comes, especially from the U.S., is they enjoy having the expats around. There's still not a comfort level with the Philippines or the Filipinos themselves, and so they want to connect with something that's familiar to them, and so they tend to have all of their activities and surround themselves in coffee shops or malls or golf or fitness, whatever it might be, with a group of like-minded expats. And then as they settle and spend more and more time in the Philippines, a lot of times those expats fall off and they become surrounded by the girlfriend or the spouse and her family. And so to the extent that there are some expats that are there that really have virtually no contact with any expats whatsoever. And you always hear me say jokingly, or you see in the comments where they're like, one of the ways to stay out of trouble in the Philippines is to like stay away from the expats. The expats will be the ones to get you in trouble. There is some truth to that, the potential, but a lot of it depends on your personality. There are some things when I was in the Philippines that I really would miss about the U.S. I think you'll probably have that as well should you move over there. There are just some things that have become part of our actual life and our fabric growing up stateside. And just to leave that completely, there's going to be a longing for it or a missing of that in some cases. So expats or no expats, you can choose, or you can go in a moderate type of range. You know where the expats are, in the Philippines. So if you're looking, at an area, you can make that determination for yourself of whether that would be ideal for you or not. So one of the biggest factors is if you have a girlfriend or a wife, where is she from? Because so many times, even those expats that say, I could never live in the sticks, never live in the boondocks, will find themselves after a year or two migrating towards the spouse and her family, or at least to those areas that she is accustomed to and she's comfortable with. As you spend more time getting used to the nuances of the Philippines, the noise levels, the dirt, but there's still a lot of things to do, whether you're in the country or you're in the city, depending on how well you can entertain yourself. But look at all the vloggers and look at, besides the vloggers, just the ones that they interview of the guys that have packed up and moved to their girlfriend's island, or specifically to the village or the town where they live. I mean, it's much more common than you might imagine Um, just at a cursory glance, you would think, oh, most of the guys are in Cebu, or most of the guys are in Manila or Dumaguete. There are a lot, but there's also a lot of guys that are way, way out there, staying in and around the villages. Medical has to be a concern. I just had my experiences, which was relatively new for me, but having been in that field, I know how critical it is for the expats to do a true assessment of yourself. If you're going to be in a very rural setting, an hour or more from any tertiary type of hospital, do a self-assessment and see, am I on meds for high blood pressure? Is there cardiovascular disease in my family? How about cancers and oncologies? What do I have? Am I diabetic? There's a whole host of things that as we get in our 60s and 70s and 80s, they will manifest themselves. And so if you're having to drive, an hour or more each way just to see a family practice doc or to get your meds, how much more will it be when all of a sudden the specialists start to get involved? So, think about that. One nice thing about the Philippines is there usually is, a family practice doctor in the communities of any type of size. And, perhaps they don't have the medical training that you would anticipate they have, or you would hope that they have, but they most often are capable of at least doing an initial diagnosis and giving you some indication of who you might need to go see in the next class of city or the bigger city. We've all heard the horror stories of people that have been way, way out and have had medical emergencies and something's bad has happened as a result. So think about that. Costs are almost always a concern, all right? I mean, there's not that many retirees anywhere that don't at least have some thought process about what their budget should be. I don't have a lot of friends that have an unlimited budget from month to month. Most of us have, X amount of money that's coming in, and we need to stay in those parameters, especially with the realization you could start add family members pretty easily in the Philippines. If you're by yourself and 60 in America, chances are you're going to be by yourself and alone at 70 and at 80. In the Philippines, we see that all the time. That's not the case. Your 60-year-old gets a younger Filipina and they have a child, or she already has kids. All of a sudden, you go from alone to 4 or 5 people in your household. That absolutely changes your budget. So if you're pressing the very edge of your budget, let's say you're getting just Social Security, for example, and let's say it's $1,300 US, and you're living on that and approaching, $1,000, $1,100 yourself, right? And you're able to put away a couple $100 a month into your slush fund to protect yourself. I mean, that money's going to go quick if you add a girlfriend or wife, and if you add kids, perhaps you can't even do it at that amount, no matter how much you tighten it. So you're going to have to look for alternative sources of income, perhaps. So costs, I think, have to be a significant factor. And also, each one of the islands has different costs. There are places that you can live that are significantly less expensive than staying in Manila, right, at BGC, or staying in Cebu, in the downtown or the key areas of Cebu. Now, you can live on Luzon Island, the main island, right, or the most populous island, and be in the outside area and have expenses very similar to anywhere else. But if you're going to be in the city, expat areas expect to pay a premium for those, no matter where you are, whether you're in Manila or Cebu, Davao City, Dumaguete, Iloilo, it doesn't matter. You're going to pay more when you're in the resort type areas or the wealthy type of areas. So, and lastly, I'll close with that. Which island are you after? And that ties in with the costs and what your wants are. Is it Luzon to be able to get to Clark to the airport, or Manila to the airport, and make it easy for international flights? Or would you rather steer clear of the population center of the Philippines and get to the outlying islands? Because there is a big difference from, say, Cebu and like Samar, for example, where there's just nobody there, and just everywhere you go, it's just beautiful beach and a lovely place. But is that really where you want to live? So whether you're in Luzon, Cebu, Negros Oriental, which is Dumaguete, for example, or those towns up and down the coast, Mindanao, Iloilo, Palawan, super beautiful, but can be pricey unless you're able to find someone. So anyway, that's what I was thinking about today. I wanted to tell you about my new front tooth and give you some more ideas, just because you've been asking about how to start your search. I know I didn't get real deeply into the budgets, and I certainly can, but at least this gives you an idea of what you want, what you don't want, what are your priorities and needs. So anyway, from World Zoom, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fun video. See you later.